Greetings, Safe to Serve International and first-time viewers. I'm your host, Andrew Henriquez, and welcome to this Midday Power Surge. I have a great question for you, and this is surrounding tithes and offerings. And the question is, do you withhold tithes or do you redirect tithes? I'm going to be addressing that question today in this presentation. We have come to a time within the SDA community wherein you will be banned from SDA conference churches if you redirect tithe, if you promote the redirection of tithe. Dr. Conrad Vine presently has been banned from the Michigan conference of SDA because he promoted what they say is the redirection of tithe. We have come to that time in Earth's history. What if you were to discover that Ellen White, in her writings, her actions, she actually redirected tithe? That would mean if she were alive today, the leaders of the SDA organization, from local conference all the way up to general conference, they would have banned her too. What if I told you, and you were to view from Scripture, that even Jesus Christ redirected tithe? What would that mean? The present leaders of the SDA organization would have censored and banned Jesus. That's where we are. And that's why this lesson is so important today. I believe we have come to a time wherein we need to communicate, whether by phone, text, email, with every SDA conference pastor that we support and ask them, frankly, which side of the issue are you on? And publicly, you need to make it known which side you're on. Are you with the conference, censoring, marginalizing, banning faithful preachers, including Dr. Vine, on this issue? Make it known. If they refuse, we have come to a time that we should not support them in person nor financially, and I'm going to be giving you more info in this presentation. Well, beloved, I want to begin with an actual source statement that was sent to me. You know, we have sources. And after yesterday's lesson, Midday Power Surge, I've received several phone calls, several emails, text messages, and it includes pastors, elders in the Michigan conference. People are waking up and they're taking the right stance on this issue. Now, several days ago, I received from my source a Sabbath school lesson guide topic. And friends, it's so hard to believe that this was written in the Sabbath school lesson guide. The Sabbath school lesson guide is presently promoting propaganda. And they are going to brainwash Seventh-day Adventists to keep them as slaves in these last days. Take a look at this. And we know the Sabbath school lesson guide is actually read by Seventh-day Adventists worldwide. This is the present Sabbath school lesson guide, as you can see, August 31st through September 6th. Now, note this one. This past Sunday, September the 1st, they ran an article, or I should say, they ran this paragraph, this page, talking about the widow's 2 mites. 2 little coins in the offering, based on Mark chapter 12, verse 41 through verse 44. Before I get into this, I want everyone to note who the chief author of this Sabbath school lesson guide is. The contributors, who are they? Look at the first line on top of your screen. Look at the chief editor and the editors. Look at them. What were they saying in the Sabbath school lesson guide? If the Seventh-day Adventist leaders are corrupt, still give them God's tithes and offerings. Let's read that. There it is on the screen. They write, this story, the widow with her 2 mites, this story contains a deep lesson about the management of resources. Given to God's cause does not depend on the actions of leaders to have validity. The religious leadership of the temple was corrupt, but Jesus did not thereby affirm withholding offerings. If ever there were corrupt religious leaders, like Caiaphas, like Annas, those at this time were among the worst. And Jesus knew it too. You see, friends, this is what I call propaganda, false teaching. This is brainwashing the masses. I call it indoctrination, re-education. There has been a psychological warfare launched against the SDA people for years, for decades now. And I'm going to address that point in the context of tithe and offering. So now they're telling us, if you know the corrupt leaders of the SDA church are in apostasy, gross apostasy, still support them with God's tithes and offerings because Jesus commended the widow for giving her 2 mites to the temple. Here it is right here. It is true, rather, that leaders have a sacred responsibility to use resources in accordance with the will of God. But even if they do not, watch this, those who give to the cause of God are still blessed in their giving, as this woman was, as this widow was. What would this story teach us about the importance of being faithful in what we give to the Lord's work? Beloved, this is their justification. And that's why it's time for Protestantism to rise. It's time to protest and call for reformation. Underscore this paragraph here. It says, watch carefully now, even if they are in apostasy, still give to the cause of God. Were the Pharisees and the Sadducees promoting the cause of God? Friends, the evidences show that they are plotting to censor, marginalize, capture, prosecute, crucify, kill Jesus and the disciples. Were they promoting the cause of God? What did Christ say in Matthew 15, verse 9? That they were teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Here's a great question we must ask. So, Pastor, why did Christ commend the widow for giving her 2 mites? Here's the answer. Because she gave sacrificially. The other folks, rich people, affluent, they did not even make a sacrifice. They were simply giving the pittance. But they withheld their resources. But the widow had nothing. And she made a great sacrifice out of nothing. That's why she was commended. Here's a question for you. Did the widow know the leaders were corrupt, in apostasy, and she still gave? Second question. Or did she not know? Was she ignorant of their corruption and abomination, and she gave? Which was it? If it's the former, then the tyrants of the GC, SDA, have their justification. If it's the latter, they are liars. Let's take a look at inspiration. This is the Desire of Ages, page 615, commenting on it. But Jesus understood her motive. Now, this is not in the Sabbath School lesson guide. I'm giving you this quotation. But Christ understood her motive. She believed the service of the temple to be of God's appointment. She believed the service of the temple to be of God's appointment, and she was anxious to do her utmost to sustain it. The love to God and the interest in his work prompted her deed. What did she believe? She believed the temple of God. She believed the service of the temple to be of God's appointment. Let's stay right there. Beloved, this is Mark 12, right? Was she knowledgeable or ignorant of the apostasies? Look at Mark 12. That's where it's coming from. Mark 12, what did Christ say? By the way, I just skipped something. Let's come back to this here. Now, again, she believed the service of the temple to be of God's appointment. Question, who ran the services of the temple? Or was it on remote control? Was it be run by robots? AI technology? Or were there literal men running the service of the temple? Were those men faithful? Mark 12, let's go there now. Mark 12, what did Christ say? Beware of you scribes, which devour widows' houses. For a pretense you make long prayers, you are going to receive greater damnation. That's it. And then it says, a woman came and gave her 2 mites, the widow. She was ignorant of their corruption and abomination. That's context. Because what was Christ saying? These men are all in apostasy, about to receive damnation. That's Mark 12. Let's go to Matthew 23, where it's taken from. What is in Matthew 23? I want everyone to watch this. She believed the service of the temple to be of God's appointment. Watch this now. And she was anxious to do her utmost to sustain it. Whoa. So what did she not know? She did not know that Christ was about to destroy that same temple. Let me give you something you can relate to. Have you ever driven through certain communities, you see a home that's dilapidated? A big sign on it from the county or city, condemned, and by and by it's about to be destroyed, torn down? If you are about to condemn a building, destroy a building, would you go down to your furniture store and buy new furniture, bring it back, and furnish the home, only for it to be destroyed? Come on, talk to me. It says right here, she was anxious to do her utmost to sustain it. She was ignorant. Look at Matthew 23 now. What does Christ say? Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. You devour widows' houses. It's right there. You will receive greater damnation. And what does Christ say now? I sent you prophets, you kill them. Your house is left unto you desolate. Argue with that. You can't win that argument. We don't argue, by the way. We simply give you facts and truth. To destroy this indoctrination, psychological warfare among the SDA people right now from these tyrants. You may ask, then why did Christ not tell her of the corruption? Response, how do you know he did not? Is everything he did written? No. So how do you know afterwards she was not told? Don't speculate. The secret things belong to God, but that which is revealed belong to us and our children forever. Deuteronomy 29, verse 29. Next, understand this. Did Christ use monies to support that temple? You would think if you want a scripture to justify supporting corrupt and apostate leaders, you'll find where Christ himself put monies in the temple. Did Christ do that? Did Christ do that? And why would the SDA leaders, the contributors, the editors, the chief author of this Sabbath school lesson guide, why would they not quote Sister White's writings to confirm what she actually said? The widow was ignorant. They won't do that because they're modern day Eli's. Eli, they lie, they lie, they lie. Psychological warfare. The slave owner mentality to enslave the masses. Deception. Would an employer, let me give you something you can handle. Would an employer reward an employee for destroying his business? Would Christ support a system that was against him? Would Christ support leaders who were now planning to kill him? Some of us think that when we come to the Bible, being pragmatic is thrown out the window. Being logical is cast aside. Propaganda number 2. The SDA propagandists say, if you don't give tithes and offerings only to the SDA conferences, then you are withholding tithe. And they say it is wrong, you're sinning. Let's get back to the Sabbath school lesson guide. That's what they said. Sabbath school lesson for the worldwide Seventh-day Adventist. The blue words, given to God's cause does not depend on the actions of leaders to have validity. The religious leadership of the temple was corrupt. Watch this now. But Jesus did not thereby affirm withholding offerings. Do you see what they're saying? I'll give you a second paragraph to confirm what they're saying. Next paragraph. Same Sabbath school lesson guide. On the other hand, withholding tithes or offerings, when leaders do something displeasing, means that the giving is tied to their actions instead of being made in thankfulness to God. However tempting it may be to do that, the SDA indoctrinators say it's wrong. What a brainwashing. What a brainwashing. What a brainwashing. We're living in a time where we need to call sin by its right name. Can we hasten it? And that time has come. If you don't return tithe and offering only to the conference, then you are withholding tithe. Friends, there's a big difference between withholding tithe and redirecting tithe. Here's what the SDA propagandists say. They quote Sister White's writings, and they say if you withhold tithe, you'll receive a curse. Here's Sister White's words. Cannot you see that it's not the best under any circumstances to withhold your tithes and offerings because you're not in harmony with everything your brethren do? You see it now? There it is, Pastor Enriquez. If you don't send every tithe and offering to the conference, you are withholding tithe. Next paragraph, Sister White's writings. She says, unworthy ministers may receive some of the means thus raised. But dear anyone, because of this, withhold, that's the word, from the treasury and brave the curse of God. Next paragraph. If the conference business is not managed according to the order of the Lord, that is the sin of the erring ones. The Lord would not hold you responsible for it if you do what you can to correct the evil. But do not commit sin yourselves, by withholding from God his own property. You're going to be cursed. Mercy. Beloved, this is the go-to quotation from the SDA slave owners. Let us analyze the difference between withholding tithe and redirecting tithe. The differences are as far as the east is from the west, the north from the south. Friends, withholding tithe means just what the word implies, withhold. You don't give God's tithe and offering to any pastor that's faithful, ministry that's faithful, church that's faithful, or project that's tithe worthy. Withholding also means you keep God's money to yourself. You use it for personal use, like pay your rent, your mortgage, etc. Also, for other purposes that are not based on Bible and spirit of prophecy. That is withholding tithe. Listen to me. What is redirecting tithe? You see, redirecting tithe is saying, because I have knowledge that these leaders are corrupt in apostasy and wasting God's money, watch this now, they are, quote, unquote, redirecting the purpose of the tithe for purposes not based on Bible and spirit of prophecy. I am going to redirect God's money from them to other faithful ministers, faithful churches, faithful ministries. That is redirecting tithe. But the conference leaders, the propagandists say, if you don't give them your money, God's tithe and offering, you are withholding tithe. That's a lie. Did Sister White redirect tithe? Watch this. Not my words. Look at your screen right there. God grant the voices which have been so quickly raised to say, all the money invested in the work must go through the appointed channel at Battle Creek. That was the General Conference office. That voice and those voices, Sister White says, shall not be heard. The people to whom God has given his means are amenable to him alone. It is their privilege, watch this now, to give direct aid and assistance to missions. Direct, redirect. That's it. That's it right there. Redirect. Those voices, all the means must come to Battle Creek. All the means must come to Silver Spring, Maryland. Those voices must be kept shut. Give direct to who you want to support that's faithful to God and his truth and his work. That's redirection of tithe and offering. That's not withholding tithe. Don't be brainwashed. You can read this. What does Sister White mean by means tithe and offering? There it is. She says, last sentence, the Lord has not specified any regular channel through which tithes and offering should pass. And then she said, when you want to raise funds for God's work, red words in the middle, don't send the request to the conference papers, because conference leaders will not send you any money. Go direct to the people, and they must send you monies directly. Don't send it through conference, and then it trickles down. It's not going to trickle down. That's redirecting tithe and offering. That's not withholding tithe and offering. Don't let them deceive you. And then she says, red words in the middle, for years, people have lost confidence. Confidence in the appropriation of the tithe from the conference. The conference are the one withholding God's tithe. The conference are the ones redirecting tithe, not putting it where it needs to be. Do you remember why Dr. Conrad Vine was banned from the Michigan conference? This came out September 3rd. If you have forgotten, I'm going to remind you. If you did not know, I'm going to give you knowledge. Look at your screen right there. September 3rd. This is President Jim, let me get it right now, Michef. Look at the second paragraph. All right? Dr. Vine, his statements regarding the remnant church and leadership, the establishment of a parachurch organization, and the redirection of tithe. That's why he was banned. Last sentence, second paragraph, last sentence. This is the conference president of Michigan. He writes, we find Dr. Vine's assertions to be inconsistent, Lord have mercy, with the clear teachings found in the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. He's saying the Bible and spirit of prophecy do not support redirection of tithe. Who is right? The president of Michigan Conference or Ellen White and Jesus? Who's correct? Not the former, the two latter ones. He's either ignorant or he is a deceiver. And he could not make this statement publicly, put it in print, unless he had the backing of his board at the conference, union, division, and general conference. Yes. These men knowingly, don't they have the books? Hold on. Do they not have what is called the Ellen White, E.G. White archive, the E.G. White House, White House? They have it. Even that one too. The Ellen White estate, books and pamphlets, they know exactly what they're doing. It's the kingdom power to deceive God's people. All right. Did Christ redirect tithe? Go to John chapter 12. Did Christ's ministry have a bag? What was in the bag? Monies. What money is used for ministry? Tithe and offering. John 12, verse 4 through verse 6. John 13, verse 29. Did some women give Christ money? Yeah. Luke 8, verse 2. They gave to Christ of their substance. Substance is first fruits. Proverbs 3, verse 9 and verse 10. And chapter 8 and verse 21 of Proverbs, that's treasures. Monies. Did Christ receive money? Was Christ supporting the scribes, Pharisees, Annas, Caiaphas? No record. He redirected tithe. Come on, friends. Don't let these men deceive you. Sister White says,
they gather, they maybe incorporate, they return their tithes, that new lay entity that covers the whole of North American Division, and then the committee allocates that tithe to conferences who are faithful to Scripture. And that way, the conferences that go woke will go broke. Very simple. And the members will determine where that tithe goes based on fidelity to Scripture and whether they are willing to.
Mercy. Friends, Sister White says, each person is individually responsible for how the tithe is used or abused. That's the first sentence right there. Then she says, we should not go to the conference and ask them how to use it, where to send it, and we should not allow them to tell us where to send it. If you allow that, what you're doing, you are supporting and promoting what Sister White calls the kingly power. Think about that. Kings and peasants, slave owner mentality. That's it, friends. Slavery. That's what you're doing. I began to think about this. The Sabbath school lesson guide, was it providence or was it accidental? Think. This Sabbath school lesson guide came out August 31st through September 6th. This week, right? This week. And what were they talking about last week? What happened last week, August 25th through August 31? When Stephen Bohr, it was public now, he canceled Conrad Vine. Over what issues? Parachurch movement and what he calls redirection of tithe. What? A nail in a sure place. That's Stephen Bohr's statement. And you wake up Sunday morning, September 1st, and what is the Sabbath school lesson guide about? The conference tyrants promoting giving monies only to them, and if you don't, you are withholding tithe. Who is writing the script? And September 3rd, same week, Jim Mitchell bans Conrad Vine from all pulpits in Michigan. Same week. Beloved, do you not see what God is doing here? And the Sabbath school lesson guides are written and prepared at least 6 months to a year before it is distributed to all churches globally. And all of those events happened in the same week, and the book is opened, and you see brainwashing going on. Same issue. Re-education going on. Indoctrination going on. The psychological warfare is real. On August 31st, this past Sabbath, I preached a message, The True Vine. Yes, people ask, Pastor, was it based on Dr. Vine and the Christ? Yes, the true vine, the true vine. I spoke about one man against apostate church organization. One man being censored, canceled, marginalized, excommunicated, disfellowship. And I thought about it. Are they about to move now to disfellowship? Dr. Vine, is that where they're heading now? And I thought about Luther, Martin Luther, against the Roman Catholic organization. Do you know what was the main reason why Luther was banned, outlawed, and they were trying to kill him? It was over money. Luther preached against the doctrine of indulgence. And the priest, Tetzel, the friars, what were they doing? Selling salvation. We got to get rid of him. Redirecting tithe. How dare Luther do that? Jesus in John chapter 2, verse 14 through 17. What was one reason why God's word said they were going to kill him? Because he overturned the tables of the money changers. And Luke chapter 19, verse 45 through verse 48, then they said, we must now destroy him. Money. How dare you redirect our monies? I want reformation. Dr. Vine called for the conferences that go woke should go broke. Do not support them. Redirect tithe, in so many words. I want you all to realize you have the power. Do your research. Then ask your favorite pastors that you support. Ask your favorite ministers and ministers that you support. Ask them, are you a part of ASI? Watch carefully. Are you a part of ASI? Dr. Vine is calling for not supporting apostate conferences. I want to go one step further. Let's not allow the pastors in the SDA conference that claim to be faithful and they are present truth to hide and take cover. Ask them, are you a part of ASI? If they are, then say, brother pastor, I want you not to sin. So because ASI documents say, and the General Conference working policies say, you should not receive tithe, we can no longer send you God's tithe and offerings. Yes. You see, they want to receive a paycheck from the conference, or we are present truth with ASI and still take your tithe and offering. Hey, don't earmark the check tithe and offering. Just send it in. Take your tithe and offering. But didn't you sign ASI? Aren't you a part of ASI and the GC? Yes, you are, right? You should not receive tithe. That means you're lying and stealing. And I'm not going to be a party of lies and theft. So I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry, pastor. I can no longer support you with good conscience. Okay. Let's change the policies. Oh, so now you want to change policies now because you want to secure your bag. But other policies, you turn a blind eye. We call that over here Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. Ask them, pastors, ministries, do you support Dr. Vine? Do you support the truth he's promoting here? What have you done publicly? If not, we cannot support you with God's tithe and offering. We cannot. We'll divert it to other worthy ministers and ministries. Don't let them remain quiet and still be funded, because now you're supporting silence. And silence in the face of evil is evil itself. I want to be clear, everybody. Andrew Henriquez would support a fund for all faithful conference pastors that protest publicly and call for reformation, even if they're fired. If they're fired, I would support the fund. I would support them. I'll take my one loaf of bread and slice that bread, break off a piece and say, here, brother, eat. Here, brother, eat. I would support them. But I'm not going to support apostasy. I'm not going to support silence, because silence in the face of evil, it is evil itself. We are told that we are amenable to God and responsible for how the tithe and the offering is used. Is it used or is it being abused? May I ask you a question? How can I, with good conscience, send God's tithe and offerings to a conference organization, SDA, and they use that tithe and offering to pay women to be pastors? It's on your screen right there. It's on your screen right there. August 26th, 2024, the North American Division. Listen, our goal is to double the number of women serving in pastoral roles within the next 5 years. Women's ordination is unbiblical. It's no different than in the days of Nehemiah. The priests, God's people, took God's tithe and offering and made a nice house for Sanballat, nice chamber for Tobiah, the enemies of God's people. But what did Nehemiah do? Get out of here! And restored things. Don't only protest, but call for reformation, change. I cannot, with good conscience, send tithe and offering because it's being abused. What about the conference leaders using God's tithe and offerings to buy and sell stocks? And those stocks go against godly principles. It's being abused. Would you agree? What about them using tithe and offering to pay pastors in churches, in the conference, that are LGBT affirming? Somebody talk to me. Someone talk to me. That would be a misuse of tithe and offering. Oh, but the widow, stop lying. What about them using tithe and offering to pay Ganun Diop, to go form an ecumenical alliance with the Pope of Rome? The deadliest foe against God's people and his truth. And other ecumenical alliances. That's God's tithe at work. Lord have mercy. What monies were used to promote Babylon sorcery during the pestilence 19 crisis? Huh? It's your tithe and offering at work. Question, what monies were used to actually go to the court, sue faithful preachers? You preachers can't use the name Seventh-day Adventist. Lord have mercy. Whose monies were used for that? Your tithe and offerings. During the pandemic, your churches were closed, but they sent the deacons to come to your home to collect tithe and offering. They made sure of that. Deacons, come to your home. I'm going to swing by at 2 p.m. Will you be home? Okay? Because you're not working right? Because you did not receive a religious exemption letter, right? Too bad, but I'll come by for the tithe and offering. They turned their backs on you, but they come to your home for tithe and offering. Next time say, I'm not working. You turned your back on me. Where's the money coming from? I cannot with good conscience do that. Lastly, I'll say this. Have you ever thought about this? ASI, GC leaders, conferences say, watch this, watch this, watch this. I want we all to be critical thinkers. They say, do not send tithe and offering anywhere else. Do not send tithes anywhere else but to the conference. But if you are a self-supporting ministry, you can receive offerings. Hold on. So this supporting ministry is not with a local church or conference. It's separate, right? But they can receive offerings, but not tithe. What fund runs the local church? Every local conference church is run by offerings, not tithe. Tithe goes upstairs, right? Offerings run the local church. So are you telling me it's okay to reduce the offerings that are used to run the local church operation, but don't touch the tithe because that must go upstairs? Conference, union, division, GC. That's called robbery. And then they misuse the money up here. How many pastors have several churches in a so-called district and the conference don't fund them properly? They're walking until their shoes fall off. They can't even make ends meet. They come in to give you a firm handshake. Well done, preacher, pastor. Well done. And all the monies are upstairs. That's called robbery. But take the money from the local church. Yeah, you can divide that, but don't touch the tithe. That's called robbery. And I must say this. The truth shall make you free. I hope you were set free today. Do not support any pastor that is neutral, indifferent, who is silent. They are dumb dogs, only concerned about their monies, their pocket. Isaiah 56, verse 10 through verse 12. By God's grace, I'll see you tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. On this platform, the protest, the reformation continues.